Welcome to the Tradie Wife Life podcast, brought to you by Tradies in Business, where we talk to tradie wives about their goals, their challenges, their hopes and dreams, and how their trade business can help with that. Hello, listeners. It's Nick here on the Tradie Wife Life podcast, which you'd know because you would have heard the intro, of course. But it's a bit strange for me still. We have this new incarnation. Everything's changed here. We've rebranded, I guess, to be a little more authentic to not only who I am as a tradie wife, as a builder's wife, but who many of our guests are. And this has allowed me now to be able to invite lots of our wonderful clients onto the show with us today to talk about their perception, their reality, their journey into tradie wife life and what that has turned into in terms of career progression, because this does become a career for many of us. But we all seem to start in a very similar way. So I won't waste any time. I'd love to introduce you to my guest today, Kylie. Kylie works with her husband, Stuart, in Kylie Clear plumbing on the Central Coast. I hope I got that right. And Kylie's been working with us for about, or just 12 months now. Recently had her anniversary, and Kylie has a fantastically interesting story that I think is going to give you all a bit of an opportunity to shift your own perspective and thinking around, I guess, some of the things you see and opportunities you stumble across on a day-to-day. Kylie has a fantastic story. Kylie, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. This one's been a long time coming.
Yep.
Kylie, how did you come to be such a big part of Kylie Clear Plumbing? How did that journey begin for you?
I guess to start, Kylie Clear Plumbing has been on the Central Coast for well over 40 years, and originally started with Stuart, my husband's dad, Kerry, and his wife, Virginia, so my parents-in-law. They ran the business very well for 40 years. And then it got to the point, Kerry had some health issues come up, and we saw an opportunity to take the business and keep running with the legacy that he's created. So we took over 1st of April 2022. So officially, have been running the business for a year and working with tradies in business for a year. And we did it because we wanted to continue the legacy. Stuart wanted to run his own business. Stuart's very good on the tools, but to do that, he needed support, he needed help. And in tradie wife life started, I guess.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I think that's typical of most of our journeys. I know I share often that Dad was a plasterer. My brother had an apprenticeship quite young. I always wanted to work, or I was assumed when I was really young that I would work in and around Dad's business somehow. But my mum didn't actually play a role in his business at all. It was Dad completely solo. And so I don't even understand where I got that idea, other than perhaps I thought that, the whole cleaning of buckets thing that I talk about might have turned into a career. Thank goodness it didn't. But so, and my point being, I don't think any of us grow up as little girls thinking I want to be a tradie wife, and even understanding what that might entail in terms of a business and career pathway. And like you, I fell into this gig of being a tradie wife and then what that led on to. And so I'd like to understand, at what point did you think, okay, maybe I would like to work with Stuart in this business incarnation, and what it looks like for you now, and how have you found that journey? Because it's very different to what you were doing as your day job, and you still do now as part of your career progression and your pathway. Maybe you could share a bit of that journey with us.
Yeah, so I guess the planning of the business was always going to happen. And so it always had been flagged with me pretty much from when Stuart and I started dating, is that you're going to have to help him run this business when you eventually take over. Stuart and I have now been together 10 years, and I've only taken over in the last year. So I've had 9 years of it kind of playing in the back of my mind. My day job, I guess, is I'm a sign language interpreter, and have studied quite extensively over the last 6 years. I only graduated last year with a master's level qualification. So it's something that for me is my career. So coming into doing this as well was a big adjustment for me, and something I was really nervous about because I love my job. I love being an interpreter. I'm passionate about it, and I want to keep doing it. And my concern was coming into the business that I'm going to be doing much less of that. What I found coming into the business is actually it's created a whole lot of balance for me. I get to spend more time at home. I get to do school pickup. I get to do all these things that I didn't think was possible with running a business. I thought it might have been possible with the interpreting thing, but doing both, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to manage everything. But I think with the help of Tradies in Business, we've really kind of flipped it on its head, is that Stuart has days in the office. Stuart works in the office. We work together. We don't work separately. I think when we first started out, we were doing lots of late nights. And I was like, this is getting really overwhelming. Our daughter's starting school next year. How are we going to do it with the shorter days? But coming into the office and working actually together has been really empowering for us. And I can still interpret. I can still do these days. We've got admin support now, which means I'm not the only person that the business is solely reliant on. Stuart has learnt so much along the way that he's doing so much more in the office now during business hours. And so I think I've gone off on a bit of a tangent.
No,
but
please do. Keep going.
But it's actually been just so lovely for us. Like, it's definitely been hard. And we do have, those big moments that are just really, really hard, where we're both at loggerheads and we don't know what to do or how to move forward. But this journey has been just one of learning, and one of learning for me how to create that balance, how to do all the things I love. And I didn't think I would love running the business, but I really do. And there's been some aspects of it I don't love, but I'm learning to delegate those things I don't love to other people, and learning to share the load, and that it's not solely my responsibility to do every single bit, and actually bring the whole team in to do it as a team experience. And it means I'm still interpreting. I'm still doing the things I love. And and being able to, in my interpreting career, I've actually just started mentoring other interpreters. And one interpreter in particular has had this awesome breakthrough of taking other work that she would not normally take, and just to see that progression in her. And that's what makes me happy. That's what makes me passionate. But then on the days I'm here in the office, I'm like, we've had this awesome 5-star feedback. I'm like, great, that makes me happy. So I'm finding happiness in both my jobs, which I love. I don't know. It's not what I thought it would be.
No, it's not. It's completely different. I wonder, Kylie, was that behaviour modelled for you? Is it something that you've seen where other women have been able to, because let's speak specifically to the tradie wife angle here. Most of us have other careers, and generally what I see pretty consistently is we pause those careers while we have children, and then we realise there's opportunity for us to perhaps in the first incarnation help in the business for our tradies, because they suddenly look snowed under. We've got time. We can observe where they are within their own career progression. And so we often jump in and help by doing some data entry or the bookwork or something similar, managing the schedule perhaps. What I think is rare to see is finding that balance that you're talking about, where you're able to balance between being part of the business. You're not helping, you're actually actively running the business alongside Stuart, and you're actively pursuing your own career and working hard to achieve milestones and goals, including the mentoring, which I did not know, and I'm very excited to hear that. So I wonder if it was something that was modeled, if it was something that you saw, or something you've had to work to create and define for yourself.
I think I always saw the tradie wife as the helper and never having ownership of the business. That was never something that sat well with me, but that's how I entered the business. I was helping Stuart out. And then it came to doing, and that was probably before we officially took over. Then we looked into officially taking over, and the responsibilities and roles and the finances and all the bits and pieces that go into it. And I went, this is a lot. Like, I'm going to have to not have to. I want to step in. I want to do this with you because this is something you wanted to do. But also, prior to us taking over the business, Stuart had given up so much of his time to support me in finishing my uni degree. And the agreement with us, I think, was that he will support me to finish my uni degree. Then I will support him. So it was my time to shine, and now I'm giving back to him what he gave to me. And it's a bit of give and take in our marriage and our relationship. Was it easy? No. We had 2 children very close together. In that time I was at uni, he would be, walking the walking the grounds of uni with the pram, bringing the babies to me when they needed feeds. You know, he did a lot for me. And it's almost like I don't have to repay him for that because he's the dad. He also helped create these children. But I want to give back to him. I want to see what he wants to dream up, where he wants to take this business, what career goals he wants to kick. I want to support him in doing that. So that's how we've come to this partnership. And this is how I've become part of the business, not helping in the business, because I want to support him in achieving what he wants to do with his life. But also the balance that I'm talking about was not how it first started. It was something we've really worked towards. And I would say probably like October, November last year is when we really got to that point of going, right, this is what it's going to look like. And it's all started with my daughter starting school. That's been such a pivotal moment for us. And, you know, Stuart saying, I want to be there for assemblies. I don't want to be the dad that just comes to pick up once a month. I want to, you know, be there. And so we went, right, 2 days a week in the office minimum. We're doing it together. Those are the 2 days that we share in the office, that we do things. And then we agree on when things are really busy, when things are, we're getting smashed and Stuart needs to go on the tools more, we will pull those late nights, but that's an agreement. So we will say, right, Tuesday night, it's going to be a late one. See if I can get mum here to support us with the kids, and we'll smash stuff out in the office, and we have a really clear to-do list, and we'll work late. But that used to be the case every night. We didn't have a list. We were working all over the place. We were working till 11 o'clock. Stuart would be then back in the office at 4 a.m. And it was just this vicious cycle until we went, you're actually not getting enough sleep. This is impacting your work. This is impacting your health. It's impacting our family. Right, that's it. Stop. What agreements can we make? Non-negotiable agreements, which we've learned from you guys, that will not only help the business, but more importantly, help our family, and to create some of that balance in our life, get our weekends back, and create that's really important. Less stress.
Yeah. So many of us go into our own businesses, even if we take it away from trade businesses, because lots of the wives that will be listening to the Tradie Wife Life podcast will have their own businesses, or they will have their own careers. And I think we all go into that mindset of, okay, I'd like to have my own business for flexibility. I'd like to have it for balance. And yet somehow in between making that decision and ending up where you are right now, we lose the perception of balance. What does balance even look like? How do we create the outcome that we first came into? And instead we feel stress. There's cash flow pressure. There's employment. You know, our teams aren't built the way we need them to. So that creates pressure as well. Whereas you guys in a very small period of time have done an exceptional job of making those agreements and creating a better outcome for each of you. How do you think that came about? Like that's a very different mindset to even be stopping and thinking consciously about, I don't want to do this at 11 o'clock thing and 4 a.m. thing every day. How do we make better choices around that? How did you come to that point?
I think a lot of it came from things we were hearing in our coaching sessions with you guys, in all the sessions that we get with tradies in business. But also it came to a point where we weren't happy. The work wasn't making me happy. And I was like, why would I keep doing this if it's not making me happy? And, you know, we see how hard other tradies have worked before us. Kerry and Virginia, 40 years they worked, and they worked really hard for those 40 years, but they missed out on a lot. Yeah. And so we're trying to figure out how we don't miss out on so much. And we want to learn from the people that have come before us. But also I think we've come at a really crucial time where we've only been in business technically a year or 18 months and owned the business for a year. We can get rid of some of those bad habits early on and nail them on the head and say, no, these are, you know, when we see ourselves slipping back into those late nights in the office, we can go, no, this is not what we agreed to, and pull ourselves up on it. And you know, I think we're in a good spot at the moment. We've just come back from holidays. We're feeling refreshed. We're, you know, all these things. I'm talking all these positive and happy things. It's not always like this, but it's this is how it is most of the time for us, is that we create non-negotiables. We prioritize our family. You know, we're always around the dinner table. These are the agreements that we made, and and I think because we have only been in business a year, we've acknowledged things can get bad. How can we make things not bad? Yeah.
I think it could be tempting to listen to the podcast and think, oh, if I just go off and get a coach, or if I do a thing, I can make it all right just like that. And it's not like that. It does take a lot of work. It's hard work. It's not easy work. It can be shortcutted. Absolutely, for sure. I'd be silly to say anything different. There are pathways you can follow that can create these outcomes more efficiently, or you can keep doing it yourself. I think they're the two choices. But they do all very much start with some of those choices that can be made that I think we forget about when we're feeling stressed, or the cash flow pressure is mounting, or we're doing the 11 o'clocks and 4 o'clocks and not getting enough sleep. All of that then just helps create that continual spiral of outcome that isn't positive and isn't what we want. So it starts with that choice, Kylie. And I think that's something that you and Stuart do particularly well, is to, I guess, take in all perspectives and then make a choice from looking at all of the possibilities. And I wonder if there, is that something consciously that you do? I know that you consciously make those choices and you have the conversations, but has that always been part of your communication style together as a couple? The way you reach agreements with the choices that you make within your relationship, has it always been that way? Or was there a particular shift of thinking for you that started to create that outcome for you more frequently?
I think our kids are the center of our decisions. We are either a two-way decision makers. We procrastinate and think too much and get all perspectives, or we make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's no in between for us. Mm-hmm. It depends on how, I don't know, how much money's in the bank, how much, sometimes we just make decisions on the fly. So sometimes it's not consistent. I think what we've learned in the last year is we actually have to go, right, here are all the cards on the table. What's the best decision? Lean on our coaches, lean on our community, lean on our accountant, lean on the people around us, and go, right, these are all the perspectives. Let's make a decision together. Stuart's a bit more of an action guy than I am. I take things slow sometimes, and that will annoy him to no end.
Yes.
But then sometimes I'm like, right, I need to make a decision. But I think because we observe a lot of what's happening around us, and we will either say, that's great, that's not great.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we want to go? Do we want to be enjoying our life, enjoying the balance? This is what we signed up for. Yes, business is hard, and is particularly hard at the moment, but I want to do this for my family. Mm-hmm. So we come back to the kids. Are the kids seeing enough of us? Are we doing enough spontaneous stuff with the kids? And when we're feeling like we haven't, we go, right, day off, let's go do something fun. Mm-hmm. And we'll just book it in. I'll clear the schedule and say that we just got to do a day with the kids. And we just prioritize them, and how, because also I have 2 little girls. They're 4 and 5. I want them to grow up seeing that they can have it all.
Yes.
But sometimes it is hard.
100%.
So, I've been on a bit of a journey as well, prioritizing my health and Stuart's health and our family as a whole and a unit. And I want them to grow up and be whoever they want to be, but also prioritizing their health, prioritizing their lives, and prioritizing their happiness. And so I want them to see, parents can work together and be happy. It can be hard. Mm-hmm. Yes, there is conflict, but that can get resolved through conversation. And I want them to see all of that. I don't want them just to think everything is, roses all the time. I want them to see the hard bits. And they do, and they're very much part of it. You would see when we join sessions, they're hanging out in the background and drawing on the floor and doing all sorts of things. But it's just, they're the center of how we make decisions.
I think you always raise lots of fantastic points. One, I'd really like to jump on there. And as you know, and many of our listeners know, I have the benefit of hindsight now. All of my children are adults. All 5 are grown. The youngest is 19. The oldest is almost 27. And one of the things that I see now in almost their makeup as adults is their ability to resolve conflict in a way that I think it's quite unusual for many. And so I wanted to grab onto something you said there, Kylie. Yes, there's 100% conflict in every business relationship, whether it's within a marriage as partners, husband and wife, working in a trade business, or whether it is with a business partner. My goodness, I don't work with my husband much anymore. I mostly work with Warwick, and we have plenty of conflict as well. I think it's really important for the children to see healthy conflict and then watch and observe how that is resolved? What does that look like? Are we looking at all the possibilities together and then creating the right outcome for our family or our business or us as in our marriage? And I feel like far too often that is still shielded from children that don't have that opportunity to learn how to resolve that conflict. And I know even in our client base, when we talk to our clients, it's sad to see how many are avoiders of conflict. I don't particularly like conflict. I'm happy to do the hard stuff with people to get the outcomes that I know are best for all involved. But I was also modeled great healthy behavior around conflict resolution. So I really wanted to give you a bit of credit there where you're talking about showing and demonstrating to the children business is hard, marriage is hard, business and marriage together is hard, parenting's hard. Here's a snapshot for you kids of how we navigate some of those challenging times and how we can create the healthy outcomes for all involved. So well done to you both. I want to talk about Stuart and communication. So you and I were talking off air before we jumped on today. And let's put on the table, because many of our listeners will not have had the amazing experience that is Stuart and having the opportunity to talk to Stuart. Stuart is deaf. And so I remember when we first spoke to you guys, I remember thinking, how am I going to help create the outcomes required here? Because it was not something that I had experienced before. And so for me, perhaps it brought up a bit of fear or uncomfortableness around how I could create the outcomes, because mostly in my position, I have some element of control about how I can communicate with client. And so for me, a bit, this was off the table. And I shared with you something that I believe so very, very truly. And so I'd like to really explore this with you today. For me, Stuart has created this outcome every single time. I never needed to have taken a moment of concern or worry about how I was going to talk with Stuart for two reasons. He is the best communicator I have ever met, bar none. He is incredible. His perception of, I guess, all of the senses, which is not something that we all consciously do. And I can have the most amazing conversations with Stuart, just him and I on his own. I don't know Auslan. I don't know sign language. I don't know ordinarily. I'm not a big speaker with my hands. And yet he understands everything I say. He understands the things I'm not even saying. He can relate back to me. We have brilliant conversations. And yet I feel like for many, they probably felt like maybe I felt back in the very beginning, and we immediately throw up a barrier. Those barriers, they're assumed barriers, let's be really clear. But Kylie, I'd really love the benefit of your understanding what you've seen and given your incredible experience of being a fantastic interpreter. Maybe you can share with us some of what that looks like on the day-to-day for Stuart, and then how he's able to, I think, break down the barriers for others. It's not him, it's others that feel those barriers.
Yeah, I think the barriers that we face, more so he faces on a day-to-day, his everyday life. He will head out there and he communicates with customers every day. That's his job. He's a plumber. He turns up, fixes people's toilets, looks at their drainage, does all these things. Yet he doesn't have an interpreter with him 24/7.
No.
So when we attend sessions and do different things, or when we've got meetings, yes, we book an interpreter and they do what they do, because I couldn't possibly interpret and participate at the same time. So we have an interpreter for most of those things. But every day when he heads out to jobs, he doesn't have an interpreter. So the way and you're right, he makes things work. Like how and what and when and is on him. Like he will make it work depending on what he's presented. And like you said, people come in. We don't actively say to people, Stuart's coming out to see you today. Also, he's deaf. We don't say it. So I think that gives people less of an opportunity to build up in their mind what the potential barriers could be. So I guess that's a strategy on our part, because I think the more notice you give about a potential barrier, the customers are either going to back off and go, no, this is too hard. I don't know what to do. But Stuart will come in and just present himself and say, hey, by the way, I'm deaf. Just so you know, I can text on my phone, I can point, I can lip read, I can do this, and this, and he'll make it work with the person that he's working with. So most people he will interact with on a day-to-day basis don't sign, but he will figure it out.
Yeah.
So he figures it out based on how people present to him. And so I guess a call out for some people who have never met a deaf person before would be to really, it's just how would you communicate with anybody else? And if it's not working, adjust. So you've got pens, you've got paper, you've got a phone, you've got technology. Stuart's also got an app on his phone where people can speak into it and it will come up and text.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of things that he is accustomed to using. There's also services where he can call, one in particular that he uses, there's an interpreter on standby pretty much. And then they can communicate using that interpreter if things get a bit hard. Generally, they don't. And generally, we don't get complaints about. We have had a couple, I would say, of people who I feel like were probably more embarrassed for themselves.
Yes.
So I would kind of classify it as them problem, not an us problem. So say after I got a message, one, and this has probably been one in, I don't know, I probably have got two since we've owned the business. One was just a phone call to say, oh my God, I didn't know. I hope that I did everything okay. And no dramas, no problems. The other one was, how dare you didn't let me know. I felt embarrassed that I spoke and he didn't respond to me because I didn't know.
Right.
I responded to that and said, actually, no, I didn't respond to that because he wasn't out. I left it at that because I thought a non-response to that would actually give him more time to ponder what he actually just said.
Yes.
He wasn't one of our customers. It was through a project that we were doing. He wasn't part of the normal customer that we would service. And for us, that's a reminder, the customers that we service on a day-to-day basis are our customers, and that they would totally not have a problem with the fact that Stuart is deaf. It impacts his hearing. It doesn't impact his mind. He's an intelligent person. It doesn't in fact impact his ability to do physical labor. So he can still do the same thing everybody else can do, except maybe if you call from across the house, he's not going to hear you.
Yeah.
So you take those few extra steps, tap him on the shoulder, and it's all fine. And he's got the bonus of that he's not going to bring the blaring music on site. He's not going to do that. So I think there's some definite perks in there as well of hiring a deaf plumber. So
I think it's a great opportunity for us to stop and think about some of those unconscious barriers we put in place for everybody that we deal with on a day-to-day. And that's the reason I wanted to bring it up today in the podcast. I mean, it doesn't change who Stuart is or the outcome. Stuart is Stuart, and he's a fantastic communicator, easy to get along with, very funny fellow. And, we have a great laugh. We have excellent sessions together. And ordinarily, it's not part of the conversation that I would have about one of my clients. And I felt that it brought a different perspective today to have you stop and think, well, what barriers are you putting in place with the people that you're dealing with every day? Because these aren't barriers. I believe, and I want to be transparent. Kylie gave me the word barrier. I wasn't sure what word to use, whether it was challenge or something different. Barrier is a great word because it is, I guess, a conscious visual representation of what we're putting in place and preventing others to allow us assistance or help with on a daily basis. And I feel like it's a great opportunity for us to stop and think, well, are we putting invisible barriers in place for the people that we're working with, whether that be team, our partners, our community, our clients? And we do it without perhaps consciously thinking about it. And everything that you just spoke about and everything I shared earlier, they were barriers that I was putting in place or your clients putting in place rather than Stuart putting the barriers in place. It's a society have put those barriers in place because of fear or embarrassment or discomfort, like you were saying, and I shared a bit earlier. And so ordinarily I wouldn't share something like that in the podcast because I don't think it's important. It doesn't change the way you do business. It doesn't change the decisions that you make. And I feel like it's a great opportunity for those of us listening to think about, well, what perceptions do you have of those around us? How could you change those perceptions? What barriers are you putting in place? Because we all have opportunity at one point or another to employ in our business as well. And I think a lot of opportunity goes begging because of things like learning difficulties or things like being deaf or perhaps even blind. Like there's so many opportunities for all people across any kind of spectrum that you want to look at to be fantastic and contributing members of society and to our trade businesses. And this is a great opportunity for you as a business owner to think about what barriers are you putting in place. Kylie, is there something you wish that people would think or know on the daily, given your broad experience with some of these barriers, that you would like to share with us?
I think it's really important to understand that say in Stuart's situation, but in particular, just because he can't communicate the way you do doesn't make him, it doesn't impact his intelligence. No. He's still super intelligent and he's running a business. Like, he wouldn't be able to do this if he didn't have something going on up there. And so I think the perception with disability sometimes is that people think, oh, they're not intelligent or they're dumb, or it's a straight away an impact on someone's intelligence.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of research out there that talk about people with a disability gaining employment that will work harder because they want to prove themselves.
Yes.
They may be one of the most, you know, efficient, hardworking employees you'll ever have. I think it's about giving people a chance, making those small modifications and just giving them a really good go. So, and you'll find that they will be looking for work, that they'll be committed, that they'll turn up on time, that they won't have all those sick days. So I think there's lots of perceptions with the disability. I also think the media hasn't helped with that because there's a lot of talk about how much expenditure is going into the NDIS. But what we don't see is all the amazing opportunities that the NDIS create for people that have a disability, not only deaf people, but, you know, all ranges of disability. So I think it's about, you know, people with disability are sometimes considered expensive. Yep. But it's actually really minor modifications that you need to make, if at all. Yes. To employ a person with a disability. Yep. I think that it's something worth considering. I think that you would be silly not to.
I 100% agree. I think there's so many opportunities out there for us as employers or team builders, and also within our communities with people that we're working with that go begging because we've put these barriers in place or made assumptions, which they don't help any of us really, do they? Not when there's opportunities like this. And as I said, Stuart is one of the best communicators I have ever met, bar none. He leads the way. And all I had to do was get out of my own way. And I think this is the important thing that I'd encourage everyone listening to do. Get out of your own way. Allow somebody with something different than what you've experienced before to lead the way for you, because they just might lead you to a position that brings you great growth.
And if I can just add as well, Stuart also leads a team. And no one in that team is a fluent signer. They pick things up along the way, sure, and we enroll them in Auslan courses so that can learn. But we currently have another tradesman, an apprentice, and admin support. None of them fluently sign, yet we'll follow Stuart's leadership and work with Stuart. I'm not there a lot of the time. We don't have interpreters a lot of the time. They figure it out and they communicate and work so well as a team because they didn't have any biases coming in. They came in for interview, they met Stuart, they didn't know he was deaf. Went, yeah, cool, whatever, let's make it work. Great. And they figured it out together as a team. So there's times where I'm not always in the business. Sometimes I'm off doing some interpreting things and they figure it out. So I think if that's going to be a takeaway for anyone, yeah, sure, at first it might be hard. It was hard for them at first, trying to figure out how, what part, what, when, where. And half the time they'll have a conversation. I don't know what they're talking about because they've created their own language within a language. Yeah. And I think it's just about patience and flexibility and just giving it a go.
I want to circle back now to the beginning of the podcast where we were talking about some of those choices that you make, Kylie, because I think it's a leadership all in its own right. And there's lots of ladies listening that haven't found that balance for themselves just yet. And so I wanted to come back to that a little bit and perhaps explore some of the challenges that you did find on a day-to-day with, you know, finding that balance between having your fantastic career in interpreting and also having your fantastic career as a business owner alongside your husband. What sort of challenges were there for you and how did you overcome some of those?
Hang on, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the challenges that you found from, I guess, finding balance within both still honouring your career and the choice that you've made around your career as an interpreter, lots of education, I might add. And so, you know, ensuring that you still followed that career path and side by side, you were able to follow this path with Stu in the business, working together as a business owner. How did you, like, what sort of challenges came up for you in finding that balance between the two?
I think in terms of challenges, it was, you know, sometimes the more time I spent on the business, the more I missed interpreting. or when I was interpreting more, the business would be out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was about making some active choices to get support.
Mm.
So we haven't had regular administration support until the end of last year. So we actually went away for the conference last year, and that was the first time we'd employed casual admin support. Normally, I would have gone away and tried to do both.
Yes.
And so I kind of hit a point probably September last year where I went, I'm not bringing the best of myself to anything. So I'm not being the best interpreter. I'm not being the best wife. I'm not being the best business owner right now. Something's got to give.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've set up a bit more of a structure where there's 2 days I'm in the office completely, and those are the days that I work with Stuart.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 days where I can manage a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
And we're now at the point, so that's from September last year to here, we're looking at offering 2 to 3 days of admin support. So then we've got full coverage across the board, and I'm not pulling myself in so many directions.
Mm.
So I think it's still a work in progress.
Mm.
And we've been working towards it. It's been on the list for a while, but we've made it a priority because we talked about whether we hire more trades or do we hire admin support. And I had to kind of say to Stuart, the admin support's got to come first.
Yeah.
Because if we want to bring in the, more work, if we want to grow the business, we need somebody on the phone.
Yep.
And it's sometimes about just saying what I need.
Mm-hmm.
I can't expect him to understand what I need all the time if I'm not communicating what I need.
Yeah.
So it's been a decision, particularly since September, October last year, is that I try to be more clear about what I'm communicating. I try to be more above the line, and instead of it turning into a big fight or, me saying something really passive aggressive, I just say, I need more help in the office. And we go, right, okay, let's now look at it. How are we going to make that happen? So I think it's about identifying the challenges. And sometimes it's about me being more reflective and making more time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, these are all the things that I'm doing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
What do I need help with? Because I can't keep doing all these things. So we're in a good space at the moment where we're prioritizing where the need is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really helped with Stuart being in the office. And I will keep saying that. And I think the pro of, I know it was a big thing for Stuart's dad to give up the phone.
Yeah.
The pro of Stu being deaf is that he's never had to have the phone. He gets messages from some of our regular clients and things like that they'll message or call him. But most of the calls come through the office, and that has allowed him to really focus on what he needs to be doing.
Mm.
So like the quoting, the work, the invoicing, all of the things that I can do bits and pieces of, but I don't know how to quote up a really big drainage job because I don't know the amounts of it. He does. So I'll let him do the things he's good at. He allows me to do the things I'm good at. And sometimes it's about creating those position descriptions for us.
Yes.
Separating those roles out and then looking at what's left over, where the demand is, what needs help. So I think it's been a bit of a journey for us, and it still is a bit of a journey. Something we try to review weekly. So we try to do Sunday night meetings. People say don't work on the weekend, but the Sunday night really sets up the week for us. It's like the trendy house refresh.
Yes.
You change all the sheets, you do all the washing, you do all the shopping. That's part of our Sunday, is that we check in with each other and go, right, what's on this week? What do we need this week? And I would say to him, I actually need you in the office this week. And he'll say, look, I can give you this.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead we work towards 2 days a week in the office. Sometimes it gets cut back.
Yep.
But that's what we work towards. So I think it's about setting some goals. Some of those are negotiable, some of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to check in with each other, and it's just such a journey. Like sometimes it's good, sometimes you're in a good role, sometimes you're just not. So I think it's about just revisiting ourselves regularly.
Yeah. I think it's okay that it's not always good. Sometimes it's hard, right? And I don't ever want to sell on what we do here at Tradie Wife Life the perception that it's easy. It's never easy. It's hard work. Creating the outcomes that you want are hard. However, what we want to drive here is the opportunity for choice. And that's something that I think that the two of you are doing really efficiently. On choice, you have made a really big choice to prioritize your health. And that can be very hard to do when we have a couple of young kids, a business, 2 careers. That's a lot of choice, or a lot of consciously choosing to continually put yourself up there, that can, again, have barriers, be challenging. How do you continue to make that choice and that priority for you, as you should?
Well, interesting that it comes up because, like I said, we've just come back from holidays. I haven't been to the gym in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Stuart, coming back from holidays, I need a push to go to the gym because I'm going to come back from holidays and be like, oh, it's Easter, chocolate, woo, and just have keep going for the time of my life. And Stuart goes, and you can. And I was like, I know I can, but my body's telling me I need to go back and I need to start moving and I need to start doing that. I go to the gym. I will say I go to the gym every day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Saturday or Sunday I'll miss, but I go with the intention that I will go most days or do some intentional movement most days.
Mm-hmm.
So whether on the weekend, that's with the kids, that's doing something. But I was in a really good routine before holidays and I really want to continue that. Mm-hmm. So again, it's about expressing to Stuart, this is my need for the week. I would like to be able to do all these things. How can you support me to do those things? And I'm not a morning person. So how he supports me is he gets up early. He's a tradie, and he will wake me up and go, off you go.
Love that.
He does breakfast with the kids every morning. He intuitively knows sometimes. He'll give me a gentle shake and he'll be like, you can go to the gym, but it looks like maybe not today. It looks like you might be a bit tired. Up to you. I'm just letting you know what the time is.
Yep.
No, great. So he'll always give me the option. He'll always encourage me to go. And ever since the kids were little, he's always done breakfast with the kids. So I know I've got that morning time to be able to do it. And particularly the days that I'm in the office, like today, I haven't gone this morning because things were a bit busy here this morning, but I've said to Stuart, I'm going to the gym today. So when I feel like I need a break from the office, I'm going to step out. I've got my gym gear on. I've got my shoes on. I'm just going to go to the gym really quickly and come back. And he goes, yeah, that's fine. No problems.
Fantastic.
So I think it's about vocalizing. Yeah. I need this. I want this. This is how I would like my week to look.
Yes.
So then he can say to me, you said you wanted to go to the gym this week. You haven't been. No pressure, because that's the last thing you want to hear from your husband is, oh, you haven't been to the gym this week. It's not like that. He's like, what's going on? And I'll be like, oh, either I've got too busy. And we say busy as an excuse.
Yes.
We've really tried to get rid of the word busy in our house because it's actually about where you prioritize your time. So
we're making a choice.
Yeah. So it's about us making a choice. I would like to go to the gym today. I would like to go to the gym tomorrow. I would like to go to the gym every day this week. And so he would go, okay. And so I'll put my gym stuff out in front of him and say, I'm going to the gym. And sometimes it's about reminding myself.
Yeah.
I'm going for a walk. Okay. That's fine.
I really encourage all of the ladies listening to instill the support of their partner, because just like you want the best outcome for your partner, regardless of what that looks like, whether it be in business or their health or their hobbies or whatever it is for them, they want the same for you. And I think as women, we've been encouraged over generations to really become martyrs and not actively make the choice to make ourselves a priority. Kylie, that's one of my most favorite things about you is you actively make some of these really important choices now before it's perhaps not too late. I think that's maybe a bit inflammatory. However, we get stuck in this rut of never prioritizing ourselves, and we have as much time and ability to be able to create that choice or the outcome for us as our partners do. But they can't support us unless we tell them what we need support with. So I think that direct and clear communication is essential for you to get what you need. And it might be that has to create some different outcomes. It might be that we prioritize what happens in the business, or we reprioritize some of those early conversations we had about what we're doing with kids. I know, for example, we have a client at the moment who for a long time was really struggling to find the space and the time for her exercise. It was really important to her because her partner was working away and they have a couple of really young children. So it was really hard for her to find or even instill the support so that she could get to the gym at a time that was suitable. And so she bought a Peloton bike thingy to create that outcome for her so that she can be everything she wants to be. Not only does she get to be, she's also has a secondary business. They've got two businesses between the two of them. So she's working in both of those businesses. She's kick-ass solo parenting at the moment and taking the time to create that energy that she requires to deliver the result. And that was because of some good, honest, frank conversations instead of leaning into the temptation that society has created for us, I think, and something we're all fighting for now hard, I think, is to move out of that martyrdom and what that could look like, because you can not necessarily have it all. I'm not sure that I prescribe to that way of thinking, but you can create the outcomes that you want. You can have an element of what you need to be the best person you can be. And we can't have that unless we have the support that we all require, because this isn't a journey any of us can do on our own.
No. And on that, like the person that you're talking about, we have created a little Strava group. And so I'll see when she does a workout, she can see when I do a workout. And, it's just that little bit of support and that little bit of encouragement sometimes just from outside. Because I'm not going to come home from a walk every time and Stuart's going to go, good job. He's not going to say that every time, and I can't expect him to. So sometimes it's just about that encouragement of just saying, like, okay, I'm doing this for myself. And we've created in addition to that, we've created some health goals within our team. So we talk about that at our toolbox most weeks. And I get the guys to give me some goals that they're working on. And then maybe on a Wednesday or a Friday, I'll go, how's that going? And sometimes they're really like, paint the deck. I'm going to finish the deck by the end of the week. I'm like, great. So then I'll message and I'll be like, how's that deck going? Oh, I haven't touched it. Oh, okay. And so I think it's just, as a team as well, we're creating a bit more accountability, because sometimes you just need someone to kick you up the bum.
Yeah.
And I want our team as well to prioritize family, prioritize their health. And so sometimes the goals are about family. Sometimes the goals are about, I just need can I have a day off in the next fortnight to spend time with my family? Sure, that's fine. Like, you tell me what you need and we as a team will support you. So I think not only in our family, but in our working team as well, we want to create a more balance. And I think it's not about having it all, you're right. It's about creating balance, about meeting my priorities as I need them. And at the moment, my health is a priority. So I'm working on that. And I ask people for support and I ask people to help me, because I can't do it on my own.
No, we can't. Kylie, I could chat to you all day long. In fact, I really wish we could. I missed Ladies Retreat already. Yeah. And I have ordered my watch because I am so envious of this little Strava group going on. So I've ordered my watch and I can participate. I wonder if there's one last thing you would like to share with our ladies around, I guess, anything in business. What's perhaps something you've learned or a decision that you've made or a choice that you've created for yourself that you would love for other women in business to think about differently for their own experience?
For me, the biggest thing about the last 12 months has been learning about everything. So for me, it's about being open to learning. It doesn't matter if you've been in business 3 months or 30 years. I think being open and conscious to learning and listening to people around you. There's a lot of fodder and things on Facebook, but I think if you link in with your community, the people that you relate to, and feel like you can learn from, I think if you're open, there's things that you can change and do. I think there's a lot of, again, fodder of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those things about, women just going to the wine bottle and that's it. There's so much pressure on it, can't do anything about it. Well, actually, no, that you can. You just need to be open to learning and open to prioritizing. And, I might be selling the $1 million story here, but it's hard. It is hard. And if anyone says it's easy, they're lying to you.
Yes.
But you can do it by learning. You just need to be open to it. So I think for me, I've just gone, come at me for the last 12 months. And there'll be times definitely where I can see myself being closed off and maybe it's been too much input so I would just then start putting things down and going, right, these are all the things I've learned. Where are my priorities? What does the business need? What does my family need? And so the two big things for me in the last 12 months have been being open to learning and to check in on myself and my family, because you can get caught up in what's happening around you and get caught up in the business and those 11 p.m. nights. Or you can just check in and where are the kids at? Where is Stuart at? Where am I at? Where do I need to put my energy at the moment? Because sometimes it's not all about me, it's all about the kids. Sometimes I need to put energy into Stuart and to support him and to support the business and what he needs. And sometimes I need to say, I need you to support me. So communication, learning, prioritizing. You asked for one, I gave you three.
I love that you've given three. Thank you. It really has been a pleasure learning more about your journey. Thank you for being so open and sharing so much with us today and for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.